Hello everybody! Today we're going to restore a Stanley number 113 circular plane. It's a type 1. Let's take a look at it. But first, a mental note. You should make this yourself. Whenever you're going to put your wood wig on, check it for spiders. So here we have the Stanley 113. Stanley made a plane for just about everything, and the 113 is one of those that is just about everything. It is designed to plane curved surfaces, both convex and concave. As you can see, this one here needs a good cleanup before we can get any idea what it looks like. We'll take a look at it from all sides. The distinctive feature of the Type 1 is that solid depth adjustment knob right there. She is a beauty and she is dirty. Time to break it down. And there she is, all broken down. Next step is I'm going to take this base, I'm going to take the frog, those two parts right there, and the cap iron, and put them in the deep sink. Scrub them. A little simple green and a scrub brush. The parts have been scrubbed, and I discovered a common flaw that you find with the number 113s. You can see where that handle's been brazed onto the back of the frog. The handle attaches with one screw to the back of the frog, and the little tab that it attaches onto, if you drop that plane, it'll break off. So if someone brazed this one on. So it's not going to be a collector, but it can make a good user. Next thing I'm going to do is scrape some of the loose paint off with those scrapers right there, and then it's going to go into my sandblaster. So I'm finishing up the scraping. I use my homemade scraper. This thing right here, just a razor knife blade with a piece of wood to hold it, and this little hand scraper right here are the ones that I use. And I went around and I scraped all the flat surfaces except for the back side of the cap iron, because it's got bluing on it. You don't want to scrape that off. I scraped the iron, removed tons of rust from it, both sides, the frog parts, and all around the body. Went around and scraped off the loose paint and the thick layer of rust. Normally, when I do a plane that's has significant amount of Japanning left on it, I use stripper first. This one didn't have a whole lot of Japanning, and what was there, it just easily flaked off. So this is the technique. Keep your scraper sideways at a low angle like I've got it right here. That way you're not scratching. You work around and scrape all that off. It's going to make the sandblaster a lot quicker. So 140 years or so of rust and grime have been removed. The process was scraping with those two scrapers, the blue handle, the wooden handle, sandblasting, and then it was back to more scraping, dental pick, sandpaper on a stick, sandpaper on the block, and steel wool, and a wire wheel. That's what it took to get it prepped for paint. Next thing to do is tape it off. All the pieces are taped off and ready for a finish. There's a look at them. I'm going to apply several light coats. I'm going to start working on the iron and the iron cap while the paint dries and multiple coats build up. Most of the older iron caps, all of the older iron caps, had bluing on the back of them. You don't want to remove that, so no scraping. The best way to do it that I've found is try some steel wool first. You can rub pretty good and the bluing won't come off. You'll see the color start to even out. Rust removal. And that's all it takes for the back side of the iron cap. This one turned out pretty good. It's going to look better when I put a finish on it, which is just oil and then some wax. Now I got to work on these edges of the iron cap and the iron, and I'll do that by lapping them. To do the lapping, I've got 4 sheets of sandpaper 150 grit end to end on a piece of marble. The edges are pretty easy to do. Hold them square, make a few passes and check, and there it is. That looks pretty good right there. If you don't have a big old piece of marble or granite, something to put your paper on, you can do the same thing with the sanding block on the edges. Go around, clean them up. Just remember, you don't want to be rounding the corners off. that's it. Iron and iron cap edges are cleaned up. Next, I'm going to clean out the slot with a piece of 150 grit just rolled up. Put it inside the slot, work it back and forth, and clean the rust out of there. With the slot cleaned up, it's back to the 150 paper on the sanding block. Going to even out the patina that's left on these iron cap after scraping them. You can be as aggressive as what you want with this 150. Depends on how much of the dark coloration you want to remain. It's the patina. I'll keep working on this and we'll see what it looks like when I'm done. So I'm happy with what I got with the 150. They cleaned up pretty good. There is some minor pitting. I mean, if you need to be more aggressive, you take it over on the lapping station that I showed you. But I'm going to finish these up with some 3000 grit on another sanding block. And I do that by doing a swirling, and it kind of blends in and gives that aged look back to it. The iron and the iron cap cleaned up just fine. They look nice. Now I'm going to lap the back side of the iron so it's ready for sharp. I'm going to do that over here on my lapping paper, 150 grit. Start out going with the direction of the iron. A few passes like this, and then we're going to see what the edge looks like, high and low spots based on how shiny it is and where it shines. So it's got, you can see there's some pitting in the leading edge, which is not a good thing. You want that to be perfectly flat. So to take that out, the best way to do it is to start going from left to right on this lapping paper, keeping pressure on that leading edge, and not excessively. You don't want to take this iron off of being perfectly flat. And this could take a little while. So this iron wasn't as bad as I thought it was as far as the pitting. It looked deep, but it wasn't. It came out with just about maybe 10 minutes worth of work. Now I've gone back to doing it straight with the direction of the iron to finish it up, and there's what it looks like. So now you got a nice flat edge. It's going to give you a perfect cut after you sharpen it. I'm going to put the initial edge on this iron using 150 grit paper. 150 cuts pretty quick. It gets me down to a good edge for the final sharpening. There's a look at what it looks like. Ready to move on. Next thing I'm going to do is use 1000, 3000, 5000 and 7000 grit paper to finish the edge. About 40 strokes on each of these is what I do. See what it looks like when it's done. I repeated the grits on the back side all the way down to 7000. There's a look at what it looks like. And there's a look at the cutting edge. I'd say this thing will be ready for a test drive. With the iron sharp ready to go, it's on to the last step for the finish. There's what goes on. I built up multiple coats, and now the clear coat goes on to finish it up. This coat is one even coat over all the parts. There's a look with the new finish applied. It's looking pretty good. The next step is to apply the dirty oil rag. And there's what goes on the dirty oil rag. Every nook and cranny of these parts right here, all four of them, complete coating of dirty oil, let it sit for a while. And there's a look at the parts with the dirty oil applied. Last but not least for the cleanup is the small parts. Sandpaper in the screw slots along with a dental pick and then a wire wheel, and they'll be ready to go. I fold the sandpaper over on itself until it gets a tight fit in the screw slots. You put it in there and you clean them up. There's a look at the small parts all cleaned up. I don't put the oil on the screw for the lever cap, only the threads, because I don't want to darken that nice shiny top. As you can see, it's looking pretty darn good. That's the oil I use on them. I like it because it darkens up the small parts so they don't look brand new and shiny after they've been finished. And magically all the dirty oil has been wiped off and a coat of wax has been put on. The parts are looking pretty good. There's a look at the base, the iron, cap iron, the lever cap bolt, the frog, and the lever cap. The only thing we got to do now is put it back together. Well, I'd say that old plane looks fantastic. There's a look at the left side, the front view, right side, and a look from behind. For being somewhere in the neighborhood of 140, 150 years old, I'd say it looks pretty darn good. It's time for a test drive. And there's the board we're going to try to do the test drive on. 3/4 inch wide pine. Already got a nice curve cut into it. So I'm going to start it in from the back half. I don't know if you noticed, but the bandsaw left a pretty rough looking edge on it. It's making shavings. Not only is it making shavings, but it's making short work of it. I think it's time to turn it around already. This one deserves a close-up before I turn it. There's the side that I worked on, and there you can see what it looked like from the bandsaw. Big difference. And it was effortless to clean that out. Okay, I've turned it around. I'm going to hit it from the other side. I'm very impressed with the performance of this plane. It's cleaned out. That was it. Passed the test. Now that was an impressive job. Who'd ever thought that you could plane on curves like that and be so easy to do? I mean, look at that board. It is smooth as glass. Of course, the trick is coming in from opposite directions so you're not tearing out the grain when you're coming up the back side. That kind of makes me forget about the fact that that handle's brazed on. It looks beautiful. It's a Type 1, early made plane. Gonna make a great user for somebody. Now that was a fine performance. That's about as good as it gets. I really enjoyed this plane. Kind of disappointed at the start when I saw the handle been brazed back on, but that disappointment went away real fast when I started using this old beauty. If you never used a 113, don't be scared. You can see it's not that hard to do. If you're looking for one at a good price, it's going to go on eBay here in the month of August. Hope you enjoyed this video. Time for supper. Bye.